if you're going to build an offense around a quarterback like this, it's a winnable formula. It's a
Great,
productive
but
formula
you need
potentially.
great receivers and really
You
good
need to
offensive line and protection.
you need you need to look like San Francisco.
Yeah,
You need to have guys like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and
right.
Elijah Mitchell, who's their running back that runs like a 4.140. I'm exaggerating, but you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying. These guys that, when with some scheme, with some trickery from Kyle Shanahan, with some ability to get those guys with the ball in space, and Jimmy G just being a distributor within that system, when Jimmy G plays, they're like a top 5 offense in the NFL, right? When he's healthy and he's out there and he plays, they're like a top 5 offense in the NFL. There's no doubt about it that Mac Jones can do what Jimmy G does in San Francisco, but Mac Jones needs a Deebo Samuel, he needs a George Kittle, he needs the pieces around him. Right now, the Patriots have a bunch of guys that don't create a ton of man-to-man separation and don't create a ton of explosive plays on their own. It's not like they can go out there and throw a 7-yard pass to Deebo Samuel and have him take it 70 yards to the house. They don't have a single guy on this team that comes close to that.
They
besides
don't.
maybe
They don't.
Kendrick Bourne, but even
They don't.
we're stretching. So those are the types of guys that I have no concerns whatsoever about Mac Jones being able to lead a productive offense. He had the number 10 scoring offense in the NFL this year as a rookie. So I have no concerns. He played a very, very good rookie season with no Pro Bowl wide receivers, no 1,000-yard wide receivers, a bunch of guys that were undrafted, tight ends that were probably overpaid in the offseason a little bit by Bill. And then he went out there and had a very,
All
very
of this
good
is
year.
true. All of this is true. I think Mac Jones was your best player on offense. I don't even think it's close. For all of his flaws, the one thing you feel good about is Mac's development and the fact that the kid gets it. It's really more a matter of ceiling is all I'm talking about, because you see what the position has evolved into. And you're right. It has to be, the fear was it has to be perfect around a quarterback like that, or he has to be perfect in order for you to be able to get to another level, versus some of the big time playmakers that you're seeing with a lot of other people with the really, who are able to make those throws, can drive the ball, the bigger arms, the mobility. Again, he doesn't possess those things. So it's got to be all up here, and it's got to be with the weapons surrounding it. He didn't have him this year. I'm confident if you put a ton more around him, he'd be able to do a lot more. The arm strength is a thing, though, that he has to get in better over. His body's got to get into. He has to put in a lot of work this offseason to get his body
needs to
right.
absolutely carry the team, then I agree that he needs to make a jump with his arm strength and get a little bit more zip on the ball. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that they still believe and hope that they can build a team that is
suited to his
a little
strengths.
bit more non-quarterback centric, right? Like just a little bit less on the QB than what some of these other teams will do. And then hopefully, in 4 or 5 years in a similar trajectory, obviously not on the same level or to the same greatness of Brady, but on a similar trajectory of, okay, once we get into the 05, 06, 07 iteration of Tom Brady, that's when the team really became about him. And they built the team really around him as the quarterback and had him carry the team. Right now, the Patriots want to be the 2001 Patriots. They want to be a team that is carried by everything else, and then the quarterback sprinkles in just enough here and there and in clutch moments to be able to bring the team over the hump. I think one of the things that was really interesting about what Mac Jones said after the game was he needs to work on his leadership. And I thought that was really interesting because I think it was a good self-evaluation on his part because of what we saw out here tonight. Mac looked ready to play. Mac was making good throws down the field. I know we can nitpick the Nelson Aguilar in the Micah Hyde interception, but the ball was catchable. The ball
We
was
like
in
the way
a decent spot.
the way the game was the way the game started, and you wonder also if Brandon Bolden comes up with that play and the Patriots put points on that first drive, how does it change? But I was thrilled that the Patriots decided we're not going to just 3 yards in a cloud of dust and just hand it to Damian Harris and do the 50-yard run 50 times again this game. They put the ball in his hands and he was making plays and being aggressive and trying to make throws. So I was encouraged by that.
Yeah, Hunter Henry on third down, the one I just was talking about.
Yeah.
He makes that play on the opening drive. I watched the sideline after Brandon Bolden dropped the ball down the field, because that is a game planned scheme play, right? They drew that up on the whiteboard going into the game, saying we're going to put this in the opening script. I'm sure they practiced it all week long to flood the zone with the back out of the backfield and hit that play down the field, and they get exactly the look that they want. They get it. They get the ball, a catchable ball to Brandon Bolden, and he puts it on the turf. And then you watch him put the ball on the turf, and then you watch Nelson Aguilar show zero compete whatsoever at the catch point on the Micah Hyde interception.
I think he
And
was surprised Hyde got there. I think he thought that was
yeah,
dropping right into his arms, but
but my point here, to go back to the leadership thing with Mac, is he said that he needs to figure out from a leadership perspective how to bring the rest of the team with him, and how to elevate the rest of the team along with himself. Because I think from an energy perspective, from a focus perspective, I think Mac Jones is ready to play tonight. The other guys weren't ready to play, and he's the leader. He's the quarterback. He's the one that's supposed to set the tone and set the just energy and the focus and all that type of stuff. And he wasn't able to do that. So I think that that's something that he definitely needs to work on in terms of his maturity and his leadership and all that kind of stuff. And although he wouldn't say it directly, I think over the last month or so, we have definitely heard and Mac Jones admit that he was bogged down and overwhelmed, and maybe a little bit that whole rookie wall thing. I'm not a huge believer in that usually, but I think for a quarterback, it's definitely very real. I think the amount of information, the amount of work on his plate, the fact that really since last football season, because he played in the national championship game, then he's getting ready for the draft, then he gets drafted, then he gets right into rookie mini camps and all these things like that, time and time and time again. And I think all of that's by this point of the season started to weigh on Mac Jones, and I think that he ran into a little bit of a rookie wall, no doubt about it, and not necessarily about in terms of like, oh, he lost zip on his fastball or his reads weren't as crisp or anything like that, but more so the fact that just from an energy, from a work standpoint, right? He just ran out of gas, I think, down the stretch here a little bit.
I think so too. And again, I don't think Mac was the problem. I don't think Mac is the reason they lost tonight. Like I said,
Yeah,
you just get Josh Allen envy looking over on the other sideline and see all of the things that he can do. And when the elite tool kit
to
meets
be
like,
fair, to
yeah,
be fair, the Josh Allen developmental track is one that is very, very, very rare in the
yeah,
NFL.
I know.
Like for every Josh Allen, there's a Jake Locker. For
Yep,
every Josh Allen, there's a Blaine Gabbert. Like those
yep.
guys had all the tools, had all these things that
And
Josh Allen has, and he, to his credit, has developed into an MVP caliber
And it's very
quarterback.
likely
It's
2 or
impressive.
3 of the guys drafted this year who are also very toolsy are not going to pan out. You don't know what you're
Right.
gonna get out of Lance and Fields and
I
Zach Wilson,
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
guys like Mahomes and Allen and Herbert to a degree as well have sort of ruined it, right? Like because like those guys made it happen, and it's all coming together. Somebody like Josh Allen, who was so inaccurate and so mechanically flawed in college, the fact that he has been able to develop and flip that switch in the NFL is
Yeah,
borderline unheard of. Like this just
right.
doesn't happen with these types of things. Most
I
of the time, it
I
ends
think
up
it's the
in a
beginning of
Blaine Gabbert.
I think it hasn't happened. I think it will continue to happen because I think that's where the game is going. It's not being a running back isn't sexy anymore. You're a dime a dozen. You only get one contract in the league for most of you. So I think just more athletes are playing at the quarterback position than were before, and you're just going to continue to see that turnover where that position is just going to go to athletes more than it has in the past. But you're right. Historically, you haven't seen guys. You see guys struggle to put it all together. But when the elite tools meet high level play, you see what you've seen from Allen against the Patriots the last 2 times out, and you're like, ugh, I want me some of that. But again, Mac's not the reason they lost, and I like Mac's development. It all comes down to a ceiling versus floor debate and what it's going to be.
Yeah,
And
I think we're on
I don't
different
know,
ends of this spectrum.
but I don't know yet anymore. I think the floor is Jimmy G. And I think that if he were Jimmy G, people would be pretty disappointed because I don't think you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is carrying you to very far unless you have a spectacular supporting cast around him. So in a league where it really does feel like the quarterback is leading you and is the most important piece, clearly, in team
I have less.
successes.
I have
You
less. I
you
have.
want to see if he's that guy. That's all.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I have. How do I put this? I have more faith that Mac Jones is better. Uh, is that guy than I have faith in the Patriots to find him a wide receiver that's actually going to help
I
him be
wouldn't
that
doubt his.
guy. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like Mac could get there. I feel like Mac has shown us and put on tape that even in his rookie season that we've seen flashes of his ability to be a true top 10 type quarterback that can get you over the hump, that can help you compete in the playoffs. But I have zero faith at this point with the Patriots and their ability to evaluate skill players, because not only have they missed on guys like N'Keal Harry in the draft, now we've seen Nelson Aguilar, we've seen Johnny Smith, we've seen guys that they've missed on in terms of evaluating pro personnel players. So really the only way that you can come into this system and this offense with this team and be a game changer is if you're Brandon Cooks or 1 week of Antonio Brown, where you just are such a great talent that just overrides everything else that they're going to do to bog you down.
Right.
The last time that they've actually taken a guy, developed a guy, put him into the system, and made him a star is Edelman and Gronkowski, and we're a decade away from that. So at some point in time, you got to look at the talent evaluation. You got to look at the player utilization, all of it, and say, like, what needs to change for them to be able to get? Yeah, they need more explosive playmakers, no doubt about it. That from a talent evaluation perspective, they need guys that are more explosive. But secondly to that, some of the, like Nelson Aguilar had over 900 yards last year for the Raiders. He had 8 touchdowns. 6 of them were over 20 yards in the air. He was an explosive down the field threat for the Vegas Raiders last year. Johnny Smith had 9 touchdowns for the Tennessee Titans a year ago. He had almost 500 receiving yards. He was a red zone nightmare for teams. Teams didn't know how to guard him down there. He comes here to New England and he's a non-factor. Nelson Aguilar comes here to New England, isn't a good deep threat.
I don't get it. I don't get it, Evan. I don't get that.
Right.
More than anything else, you handpicked these guys because you saw roles in this offense that you were going to run, and you did nothing with them. I don't get it. Haven't gotten it all year. Again, it's not the reason they lost tonight, but it is the reason because, again, as you said, they needed the horses to run with teams, and they just couldn't do it.